10 seconds remaining.
Hey, welcome back, guys. We've got the NA coverage of the
seconds
TI qualifiers continuing here. I'm AC, joined by Cap. And Cap, my friend, well, we're down to the nitty-gritty.
Reserve time.
Complexity, who really had some question marks surrounding them starting yesterday.
Evil
Play a little up and
geniuses
down,
turn
EG,
to
who
pick.
steamrolled. Now, Complexity got one on EG less than 2 hours ago. I was actually casting that game with Fluff. Now we get to see the rematch with a bit more on the line, I think.
Yeah, this is sort of like, yeah, at least seeing kind of like a best of three in some way. At least the two teams get to
10
match up against each
seconds
other in an extra game. I would have really liked to see
5
another match
seconds
between
remaining.
Complexity DC because I felt that series was really compelling as well. I got to cast that with Grant,
Reserve time.
but it's fun. The North American region, 3 Tier 1 teams all seem to match up pretty evenly against each other. I think EG is still considered the best team. They just lost to Complexity, yes, but I think you just look at the strength of this team, and I think you just anticipate them to be the best team coming out of the region. But
Yep.
we'll have to see. I mean, right here, right now, Complexity may still be the better team as they've already showcased that
Complexity's
once.
turn
See
to
if they
pick.
can do it a second time.
Well, EG going right back to what they know, and what they know is successful. We saw Zion Lion last time around, worked out quite well for him. And of course, I don't think Universe Darkseer needs a whole lot of explanation or anything else, or a Spirit to lead things off for Complexity.
10
Now, what we
seconds
saw
remaining.
Complexity use to really get one over on EG, I won't call it unorthodox, but it was
5
definitely a
seconds
Complexity-esque kind of a draft with a twist. It's centered around the Lone Druid in particular. And unfortunately for EG, they just
Evil
weren't able to slow his
geniuses
farm
turn
down
to bat.
whatsoever. They were able to outmaneuver EG. And if I'm completely honest, Cap, they outthought them in terms of their game planning and everything else. They just took control of the game very
Complexities
early
turn to
on.
bat.
And even though they weren't nearly as punchy and like what you would think would be a true 5-on-5 team fight situation, they were still able to capitalize and eventually just kind of run EG right off the map. And they'll be looking to do that again. And as a matter of fact, EG certainly
seconds
showing the
remaining.
respect as they ban the Lone Druid now, looking ahead to the second pick phase.
5
Yeah,
seconds
the
remaining.
Lone Druid being taken out and the Oracle. These are sort of like the minor things that may be specific to this
Evil
matchup. And these
geniuses
heroes, the
turn
Oracle
to
being
bat.
picked up against the Darkseer, an attempt to be able to control his farm. But we're still seeing a lot of Darkseers, grab Iron Talon or Stout Shield and Quelling Blade and go straight into the jungle. So that may not even
10
come into a
seconds
factor. The
remaining.
whole the whole concept that you can use Fortune's End to be able to
5
purge off the
seconds
Iron
remaining.
Shell. Still think it's a strong situational hero, and it happens to be
Complexities
effective
turn
versus
to
both
bat.
Darkseer and Lion. So maybe this is the situation where it's worth a 1-2 pickup. Other people I've talked to have very much doubts on whether or not the Oracle is worth a 1-2 pick, and I am hesitant about it, but Complexity always have a game plan, so we'll see what it
10
is.
seconds remaining.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Oracle pick, it seems like Complexity has been able to get more out of that hero than
5
most teams
seconds
competing here in the
remaining.
quali. And call it experience, call it better game planning. It could just be a playstyle thing, I was talking
Reserve
about it with
time.
Fluff. And more so than Complexity, more so than just about any other team, at least, teams that are on the bubble of that top tier or considered top tier, depending on how deep you want that tier to be, they're not the kind of team that's just going to outskill different you in most cases.
No.
They're not going to just come out and flat out rock your lanes because they just have better mechanics. They're a team that completely revolves around team play and just practice, knowing what you want to accomplish, good shot calling, good movement, good thought processes. And again, that gave them a win over EG just a couple of hours ago. So the Death Prophet banned out by EG, still waiting on our final ban from Complexity. But like I was going to ask you, Cap, you and I both got a good chance to watch both of these teams
Evil
over the last
geniuses
48 hours.
turn
Timber
to
saw out
pick.
for EG. What do you think has really kind of
Complexities turn to
switched
pick.
here? I mean, EG was tested by DC a little bit in our previous game. They ended up pulling it out, and by the time it was over, it looked a lot more lopsided than I feel like it was for the first 20 minutes, whereas Complexity has really just shined here today.
I think Complexity
10
may
seconds
be
remaining.
amping up in this qualifier. They had a really rough game against
5
FTL,
seconds remaining.
and I would say that their match versus DC was a bit clean, but
Evil
I still
geniuses
saw
turn
some
to pick.
things, maybe strategical decisions or something that I didn't quite fully agree with. So I still think there are some points of
Complexities
weakness
turn to
for Complexity, but I do think that they seem to be getting better as this qualifier goes on. So maybe that's the difference that's happening here. Maybe that's why Complexity were able to take EG in that best one, and maybe it's even like a bigger like bigger picture sort of thing. Maybe Complexity beating
seconds remaining.
beating Evil Geniuses at Epicenter, took that monkey off his back. He proved
Reserve
something to
time.
himself. He proved something to the rest of the world, and now they have
Evil
confidence going
Geniuses
forward into
turn
this
to
matchup.
bat.
Whereas before it was kind of like you got beaten down by this team every single time in tournaments. It was just seemed to be the curse of Complexity.
Well, speaking of complexity, continuing with what I would call a very complexity-esque lineup. Not quite as death ball-centric, I
10
think,
seconds
as some of the other lineups we've seen them draft here today, but still some very similar elements
5
here. Spirit the
seconds
Oracle, the Bad
remaining.
Rider. Juggernaut, of course, a very good carry to mix things up early. One thing I love about EG, though, is just how damn tanky the vast majority of their team
Complexity
is beginning to
turn
feel. I
to
mean,
bat.
Lion, he's kind of paper mache, whatever. But a Darkseer, especially one that gets a good start in the jungle, is able to get up a very quick mech. Sven and Timbersaw, two heroes that can be very difficult to bring down if they get off to a good start. And I mean, Timber in general is just tough to bully around, even in the very, very early
10
phases.
seconds
You have to
remaining.
gank him with 2 or 3, and that kind of brings me to, another point is when you look at
5
dedicated
seconds
lockdown,
remaining.
they have some. I mean, Complexity's not completely lacking there, but in terms of anything that they're going to want to use to try to really punish a Timbersaw or a Darkseer if he is in the
Complexity's turn to
jungle,
pick.
it's going to have to take some really nice execution leading up to a blink on the bat.
Yeah, that's going to be Batrider and Earthspirit. They're unlikely to get a mid that initiates because we believe the Juggernaut is probably
10
going to be
seconds
mid against
remaining.
the Timbersaw.
Right.
Now, Evil Geniuses, they have to cover their bases
5
and they have to
seconds
decide like,
remaining.
okay, what because it's not going to be a single core Juggernaut. They need to be able to have a
Reserve
secondary
time.
carry, and they look at the two positions and they're like, okay, what cores would be threatening? Would be the most threatening, and I think a Quaswex Invoker would be the most disruptive core to back up the Juggernaut. So I do
I
like
like
that
that.
Invoker ban, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Juggernaut is safe lane. I think it's still going to be matched up mid against the Timbersaw, and we'll have a different safe laner for Complexity here. Timbersaw is always a kind of a tough cookie to crack, just because Juggernaut's already going to have issues with his Omnislash. He can't eat through Darkseer, Timbersaw, or the Sven very easily as time goes on. As you mentioned, these heroes are really tanky. They've got high amounts of armor. So a magic damage core would have been best, which again goes back to where the Invoker was. Death Prophet, maybe a faster high ground pusher. Timbersaw just eliminates so many of the stronger strength carries
Right.
of the current meta that it makes it really rough. I've got to pull up the hero database to try and figure out.
You do that.
If-
We're down to 10 seconds, so we're going to know one way or another.
10
Hurry up,
seconds
get your pick in.
remaining.
It's going to be Medusa,
Okay.
as a matter of fact.
Evil
So.
Geniuses
Makes
turn to
sense.
pick.
It's a hero that gives you a bit of a. I mean, it's a good team fighter. There's going to be another support coming out from EG, and they go with the tried and the true Venge, who pairs very well in most significant cases with the Sven. But Medusa's going to give them a bit more team fight, make them a bit more defensible. They're going to be able to react if they do find themselves behind and having the teleport to TP to defend towers, etc. But, of course, it's also a safety belt pick that can go wrong if you don't get enough momentum to keep her protected throughout the mid-game. So, first thoughts on this, Cap. Complexity, EG, again, moving ahead. Very important match as we put a bit of a cap onto our best of ones here in the Americas qualifiers. How do you think these two squads are going to match up?
Looking at the draft, I actually do like the Deuce. I think it matches up pretty well against Sven, specifically because Sven
10
is so
seconds
focused on
remaining.
being able to bring a hero down in a short period of time, and
5
that Stone Gauge
seconds
really
remaining.
slows down his momentum in team fights. I hope. Are they running mid Dusa? Because I believe. I think they have two different cores that actually beats Juggernaut, beats Timbersaw. So I like that, first of all. I'll just put that out there. I like the fact that both Juggernaut as well as Dusa mid can actually do very well versus Timbersaw. I haven't seen Dusa Timbersaw, but I imagine that Mystic Snake would actually make that matchup really difficult for Timber. So I was kind of hoping to see them run that and just see how it kind of unfolds. Complexity, rather interesting. A 5-man smoke that is more about the Earth Spirit getting down his really aggressive vision. You're seeing how important this laning phase vision is, so to be able to get it up via smoke and make sure it is encountered and is also outside of the range of maybe some typical counter wards, but they're also still holding on to high ground because they know a little bit about Evil
Here we
Genius's
go.
attempt.
EG eats its way through. Oh, Venge trying to get off the magic missile, thought better of it twice. Here comes Jesse and the boulder roll ahead. PBD's in a lot of trouble. First blood gonna go the way of complexity. Now the follow. They're gonna get Jesse in a beautiful two-man Earth Spike, but Sumail also low. He's gonna end up dropping 3 down. And we are just 10 seconds out from the horn. Fear, cover the Mystic Snake, couple more auto attacks, bring him down as well, and they're not done. We're gonna see Z-Freak try to chase down Universe. Universe, unfortunately, a little too tanky from the beatdown on his own. The Oracle is there, but don't think it's gonna make any difference if Zai's gonna be there to bail him out. A couple more auto attacks might have gotten it done. Is he gonna stick with this? Zai's gonna try to body block him and successfully keep his boy safe, as he benefited from a high ground miss or two. Oh, he rolled. No, he got him anyway. Now Zai's in trouble.
God.
Zai down to half health. Hanskin and Z-Freak diving deep. 5 kills on the board. There's going to be a 2-man Earth Spike. Here comes Sumail trying to make him pay. Zai trying the juke. Can he make it away? Couple more auto attacks will do it. 5-1 complexity. Continuing to pour it on. They do end up giving 1 back, but still 5-2 plus a first blood. Don't know you can ask for a better opening 60 seconds of Dota.
I'm not sure how Complexity knew so well that Evil Geniuses were going to be going for some sort of like aggressive smoke play like that, but the way they were holding really defensively, all 5 heroes up there on the high ground, they didn't try and move out with their smoke whatsoever. They just played that so, and the moment the fight starts, you could just tell it was going to go bad. Like the spin right in your faces, the Mystic Snake, very powerful in that kind of situation, and then they were just going to be able to wipe through everybody there. So what a great start for Complexity, looking to be able to match their first win against EG with another dominant finish. I like their draft. I like the matchup here of the Dusa versus the Timbersaw. They obviously had a fantastic start. I really think Complexity is going to do this again. I think Evil Geniuses